Daughter, you watching? Hi. Go to bed, Charlotte. All right, Carl. I'm going to stand right here. How are we on? Am I in frame? I'm in focus. Sounds good. Check, check, check. 1, 2. Great. Oh. Okay. Well, I'm happy to unveil yet another half-baked idea from John Bob. Gary, great. That's what you wanted to see. I know. But you know. These thing about these half-baked ideas, I need help baking them, right? And that means different contexts. Because in my context, they appear to meet requirements to some degree. In other words, they work. That's what it works means, right? It appears to meet some requirements to some degree. So a small, short backstory. Some of you know me as the co-creator of this thing called session-based test management, which I'll talk a little bit about tonight if you don't know what it is. But it's a way to manage and measure exploratory testing. So it's been around for 10 years, and my brother and I are pretty proud of it. We literally created it on the back of a Denny's napkin at HP Boise in the year 2000. Well, he gets off the plane recently from a project in Israel, and I'm like, how'd it go? You know, do you do sessions? You know, medical devices is kind of cool. You know, it's really integrity, scrutiny, exploratory testing, but with documentation, right? No, it didn't work. It didn't work. The project was too chaotic. And okay, well, we're context-driven guys, right? So we go, okay, can't win them all. It's context. He said, you know, I work more in threads. And I said, what threads? Tell me more about threads. And so we began to talk about what it means to work in threads, and it was his way of responding to change. Okay, so that's it. I'll just bait you there. All right, and I'll do some slides, and we'll come back to that. What is threads? What are threads, and why am I thinking that that's related for this plan for responding to change? This comes from one of the things in the Agile Manifesto, by the way, responding to change over following a plan, kind of a tendency. So I kind of put the word crazy in there to lower all of your expectations, that it wasn't a silver bullet, right? And hopefully, you know, I will under-promise and over-deliver, as I often try to do. So. Okay, so let me check in with the Ustream. Hi, internets. Hi, lolcats. Hi, tweets. If you have a cell phone, please turn it on, right? Because I want you to tweet. Right? I just say turn it off or silence it. Or I say hold your questions to the moment they occur to you. Okay, so go ahead and interrupt me, right? We have a chat session going there. Carl's going to raise his hand if someone on the internet has something meaningful to ask, or perhaps not. Maybe it's a half-baked question, and we'll find out. So we'll respond to that change as it happens too. Okay. So the key idea. Let me start with this key idea. With me so far? You on Ustream, you can't see these slides. It's a big whiteboard, I know, and I apologize for that. But it says, if you're not free to think or learn and adapt while you test, it's not exploration. It's not exploration, right? Maybe it's you're touring and you don't have any expectations, or maybe you're doing test cases that are prescribed for you, something like that. Okay, key idea. Remember that. Okay, so let's do some testing. So on to something you've probably seen all before. This is a little app. It takes 3 numbers separated by commas. Okay? And those are the lengths of the sides, right, of the triangle. And I click check. And I would expect it to be equilateral. 3 equal sides, right? Pretty simple. All right, let's kick it up a notch here. Let's do an isosceles triangle. Let's see, 150, something like that. So the sum of the 2 smallest sides must be greater than the third side. Yep, that's a legitimate isosceles. And it is. It's isosceles. Great. Isosceles is, that doesn't seem spelled correctly. That seems misspelled. Okay, so now I've got to stop my testing, and I've got to write up a bug. So I'm interrupted by a bug. Okay, so that's change. That's something new. But listen, the point is to test, right? So that's a worthy interruption, right? That's what I'm looking for bad things to happen. So I'm going down here, and oh, look at this drop down. I didn't try these values. This must be a static drop down. That's interesting. Is that hard coded? What are these values? 60. All right, that's interesting. 16,768, comma 16,000, comma 3. Check, not a triangle. Yeah, that's not a triangle. The sum of the two smallest sides aren't greater than the third side, so that appears to work. What are these other ones? 16,000, okay, does anyone know what this is going to be? 16,767, comma 16,000, comma 32,767. So that sum of the two smallest sides are equal, right? Equal to the third side. So it's going to be a drawbridge. The sides aren't going to meet. Okay. Oh yes, it throws a, this is VB5, so on Windows 7, so it's going to throw an exception. Okay, it caused a problem, closed program, okay, so it's runtime, so it's going to fail. So let's see, I need to go, and I actually planned for that to happen, so this is change, exercises, and I have triangle, and I have triangle here, and I'm going to go all the way down here, and I want to launch it again. Okay, now, I'm not going to, it's going to repro, I'll just state you that. But here's another one, 32,000, same thing, same data. I'll show you. 16,767, comma 16,000, comma 32,767. That was the first one, the flat line. This one is one number more. One number more. Okay? 16,767, comma 16,000, comma 32,768. So it should be what? Not a triangle. Okay. So, all right, so that's going to be fine, and that's going to, okay, interesting. Runtime error overflow. So I have a general protection, I have a runtime error overflow. So why are those two different? Okay, so now I'm going to go on this investigation. Okay, this could take an hour, it could take 5 minutes. I could remember something about int16, which is negative 32,767 to positive 32,000, and there's probably an overflow. That's what the overflow is. But wait, why is this one overflowing and this one is underflowing? So, okay, off I go on this, chasing the rabbit to Wonderland, and down the rabbit hole we go, okay? All right, so, and then maybe do some more testing, but I need to, what's my mission? Am I just playing around? Or am I looking for particular risks and particular vulnerabilities, okay? So let's say I have a mission, find the worst bug you can, okay? So, good, I think I've achieved that mission so far in a few minutes of testing. So, this is all exploratory. It's not rehearsed, it's unscripted, it's improvisational. I mean, I kind of had a plan of what I was going to do, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do until this moment. So, you take this 8-hour-a-day cloud of your exploration, what do you do with that? It's unrehearsed, it's unscripted, it may be improvisational, right? So, one solution is to break up that cloud into 90-minute chunks, where you're still free to improvise, as the cloud, and but it's time boxed, right? So the other elements there, so there's the time box with the cloud. The other element is reviewable results. You write a little report, maybe a notepad, just something simple. And the third thing is you talk about it with your lead or with a stakeholder, right? Whoever cares about such things, right? And these three elements together are called a session. Okay? Pretty simple. This is what James and I came up with 10 years ago. A lot of people are using this. We started a Yahoo Groups discussion forum, SBTM BACH, B-A-C-H, SBTM at yahoogroups.org, because SBTM was already taken by somebody who considered themselves an expert with SBTM, I think, or thought they would start their own group, and we disagreed with how they were approaching it, so we made our own little thing. So you can do SBTM or Bucket-SBTM. This has been tested over several years, and people are experimenting with different notions of what the time box is. My brother and I came up with 3 things. Short sessions being 60 minutes plus or minus 15. Normal, as I said, 90 minutes plus or minus 15, because we don't want testers watching the clock. I mean, like resolutely, every minute. So some missions are going to be short, some missions are going to be long, some missions are going to be right in the normal band, what we call. But the point is brief enough to remember what you did, to allow for more things to happen during the day, to allow for course correction, and long enough to get some solid testing done. Sessions aren't 5 minutes, for example, but long enough to get something done, even though I just showed you a 5-minute session. There's more I could do toward my mission to find the worst bug. I just chose to stop because of time. And long enough to have something to talk about, so for efficient debriefings. So that's the time box part of it. The report we expect is the charter or the mission statement, some notions of metrics, how much time you spent in these areas. Duration is the short, normal, or long. But how much time did you spend in the session testing versus setting up for testing versus finding bugs, right? And those are percentages of the session. And the report also includes your notes, any bugs you found, and any issues you'd like to raise. And an issue is something which could be a bug, but you're not sure. It's a whole, it's a way to escalate concerns that you have that may be bugs, may not, but you need more context. You need more details. Okay? And then the scrutiny, the last part, is the agenda for the debriefing, as we call them, may look like this. Talk about the past, talk about your results, talk about your obstacles, talk about what you're going to do next, we call that outlook, and any feelings that you have about what just happened. You know, was it a hard session? Was it easy? Did you need more tools? Things like that. Last question in the debriefing a manager might ask you is, what kind of things did you do? Results are what are your findings? Obstacles are what slowed your mission? These are sample questions in those categories. Past, results, obstacles, outlook, feelings. Okay? So time box, report, debriefing. Exploratory testing in this framework known as session-based test management. Okay. So for you, those of you on Ustream, the slide says, but then life intervenes. And this is what happened to James as he reports getting off the plane. Did you use session-based? No. The project was too chaotic. Okay, the project was too. So we talked about that. And I found that was true in my life too, my work life. Life intervenes. Phone calls. People come into my office and they say, got a second? You busy? Or got a minute? I like the got a minute because then I got 60 seconds. You know, life intervenes. I come up with test ideas all of a sudden that I want to pursue. I come up with an issue. I'm testing. As you saw, I found some bugs, right? I got to investigate those. Because I could file the failure. I can file just what you saw. That's the time. Runtime error overflow 6 when hitting the 6th item in the dropdown. Not a very sexy bug. I want to dig. The developer is going to ask me to dig, give them more detail. Why? What platform were you on? What were you doing? All the stuff, right? So I got to dig. And that's a thread that I'll follow, right? Of course, I'm taking test notes, and I may be interrupted by some thoughts that I have. Conversations are a good idea of interruptions. Okay? Sound familiar? I'm sure I'm missing a lot. I mean, a room full of professionals here that all get interrupted, I'm sure. So these are the different ways. In 5 minutes of thinking about it, this is some interruptions that I have. Okay. My crazy plan for responding to change is coming up. So hang in there with me. But you know session-based as the preamble, and now I'm going to talk about my example day. So I have a plan, right? I got a to-do list. So I've got to talk to the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory folks. I got to call your own for business. I got Scott, my manager, is going to give me his own to-do list. I got to talk to Joe about videoing the SIG. This was like last month, right? I have to assign some homework and help David Socha, my co-teacher here for Washington at Bothell, who's teaching a course for testers on software testing. I get email, a newsletter. So, right, I got a plan. Sound familiar? Okay, got my plan. All right. So interruptions. I got a DM on Twitter. Well, I keep Twitter up during the day. I confess. I'm manager for corporate intellect. Man, I got to be aware of intellect, right? That's part of my job. But a DM is that's like a present someone gives you at your doorstep, and you can't ignore it. It's a crying baby on your doorstep, isn't it? You have to acknowledge DM on Twitter. So you get interrupted for that, or I do. Oh yeah, Lynette wanted me to find a file, so I got an email from Lynette. Oh yes, I got to do that. I got to forward Ben an email. I promised him last month. I just saw him email, and I got to do that. Oh, I got to remember to call somebody. I got to respond to a question on the forum, on the Bach SBTM forum. Joe has a deadline for me. I should probably meet that today. Oh, the printer. I'm trying to print something. I got to change the transfer case. Carl, what's a transfer case? What's the drum roller? I got to print this now. So I don't know. You fix it. So okay, Carl, it's right there underneath the cabinet. Okay, I'll fix that. Of course, and then Lynette sends me an internet link, and I got to see that. That's just I can't ignore Lynette. And then news happens. In fact, not only news happens, remember the sonic boom about a month ago? Did you hear? I didn't hear it. Now, Carl's in the office, like, kind of across from me, and so is Scott. They heard it, but I didn't. And like, wow, did you hear that? And we're like, everything stops, right? And then, of course, I have Twitter up, so I know what's happening. Well, I know the conjectures of what's happening, right? And apparently, Obama was here in Air Force One, and they scrambled some jets because the plane got too close. They broke the TFR, the temporary flight restrictions. This float plane coming back from Okanagan landed at Lake Union, broke the 10-mile barrier, and they scrambled 2 jets from Portland, who broke the sound barrier, supersonic speed, trying to get here to save the world from this float plane. So they want you to think. I don't know what really happened. But so this is sonic boom. So these events, you can't plan. So these interruptions, right? And so here's my to-do list, and I'm like, oh wait, I got the printer to do, and the sonic boom thing is interesting because I'm a human being, right? And I'm a professional in a human endeavor, right? Now, and I'm doing some testing too, so it's like this is on top of that. So that's my day. That's my day. So I come home and my wife says, how did it go to work today? Good. And I'm like, I don't talk about this stuff. I don't about this. The interruptions. And that's where the crazy half-baked idea part comes in, is the interruptions are profound. So interruptions mean change usually. There's 3 ways to mean change. Again, this is me thinking in a dark room for less than a minute. So maybe you can think of 10, but I got a slide about, well, what are the 3 ways I can think of really quickly to meet change? Okay, so you can drown in the change, right? And you can control or block the change. That's good. You know, you want to do that. When you're in session, when you're doing an exploratory session, you want to do that. You want to be focused on your charter, right? It's a good thing to do. Or you can surf these waves that come in and see where they go. You can surf these waves. And that, when James is talking about working in these threads, not in sessions, that's one of the first things that came, is this fluidity. I was working on my slide deck about an hour ago, 2 hours ago, and I had to respond to this change. This is a PowerPoint exception that was thrown. And of course, we all are software professionals, so we do Alt-FS about every 2 seconds because we've been burned before. And so I was doing that, and I didn't lose any data, thank goodness. I might have lost a bitmap I put in there. But I had to respond to this, okay? So that was an interruption that we can't control. So I'm like, that's germane to my talk. I'll throw that in there too, right? So here's the key idea. What if we organized not only our work life, but our testing around these threads of activity that you see, my red list, rather than test sessions even, or testing artifacts, like test cases, and test reports, and scenario documents, and requirements, and different things like that. What if we took this change and we embraced it instead of trying to block it, okay? So, think of a thread. A pursuit of one or more activities around solving a problem or achieving some kind of objective. Okay, it's a pursuit. That's the active verb there. Noun. It's a pursuit of one or more activities around solving a problem. All right. So, back to this slide. These are all places where threads live. Phone calls, emails, Twitter, test notes, conversations. Okay. All right. Let me back up. A pursuit of one or more activities around solving a problem or achieving an objective. All that stuff. Now, James and I blogged about this. Okay? We said, well, the natural thing was, this has merit, this has promise, working in threads. We should call it thread-based test management. You know? Yeah, just what we need. Another X-based test, whatever, right? And guilty, session-based, right? Risk-based. You know, what else is based?
Model-based.
Test-driven, model-based, thank you.
Change-based.
Change-based, now it's going to be change-based. So we said, okay, we'll call it TTM for thread-based test management. And then someone corrected us saying, well, if you have session-based test management as SBTM, you better call it TBTM. And we're like, okay, we'll call it TBTM. So he's blogged, I blogged, and this is what he put. This is what he, this was his list. His thread list is on his chaotic project. Not test cases, not even test sessions or charters, the The session is the unit of time with the report. But the charter, these aren't even charters. These are high-level things to think about, concerns and patterns of activities. Okay, that was James's world. So you may be thinking, John, great idea. You have just reinvented the to-do list. Great. Just what we need, another $10 word for something we all do, and it's just like, why do we have to come up with these stupid new names for things? And I thought about that, and I'm like, yeah, James, we reinvented the to-do list. And we talked about it, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. No, because the to-do list items often have ends to them. They have finite endings to each row. Like, talk to Julie at PNL, done. Write newsletter content, done. Work with Marshall on his first session, done. This was my actual list. And prepare my slides, done. Got my receipts to Tom, that's done. I shipped the software to Val, done. Done. Those are activities that you can accomplish, right? All right. Okay, you may be thinking, okay, you've reinvented the mind map, Mr. Bach. Congratulations. We know what that is. No, it's not a mind map, even though it does thread, it branches, but they end. And it's more of a model. It's more model-based mind maps are than threads. Although you can represent your pattern of thinking, your flow when you follow a thread in a mind map, I think. I haven't chosen to do that yet. This is a mind map, by the way, for a book I'm thinking about called Legalized Exploratory Testing, because I want it to be safe and legal in all 50 states. And I think we do it in the back alleys. So I have an outline for that. But that's my model. That's my mind map for that. Okay, so you're thinking, oh, well, we do this in Lean, John. It's called Kanban. All right? We have backlog and work in progress. Backlog, post-it notes, work in progress, yes. Done. Well, okay, done. Well, let's talk about done. These are more, not that they're to-do list items, and they are patterns of activity, but it occurred to me that they could also have a finite end to them, and when they're in the done column, you take the post-it and you throw it away. It's done. So this comes closest to what I think we've invented, but it's not quite that. So, all right, so here I am back to this. The interruptions part. Mind map? No. To-do list? Not really. Kanban? No. Can't put. How do I represent this stuff that steals my time? So, as I was chewing on this, I had signed up at Pacific Northwest Software Quality Conference to, they had asked me to do the evening talk for Rose City SPIN, the Software Process Improvement Network. There's a local one called CSPIN, SEASPIN.org, and the speaker chairman is here tonight, Jeff Smith in the back. They meet every first Tuesday at Constructs. Worth going to, just like this. Professionals, all just like us. Anyway, so Rose City is Portland. Rose City SPIN, and they said, would you do a talk for us? I said, yeah. What would you like to do? And I said, I have a crazy idea. And it's this talk you're seeing right now. And it just so happens that a few hours before at PNSBC, Kathy Iberly is doing this talk about a process at Hewlett-Packard, about lean product development. And I found in her paper something really interesting. And it said lean product development isn't identical to lean manufacturing. They may use the same fundamental concepts from queuing theory, which I need to look up more. But manufacturing deals mainly with predictable tasks of similar sizes and relatively low variability, whereas product development deals with tasks that are inherently variable and dissimilar. So she goes on to say, since the nature of the task is different, the application of this theory is at least to different answers for the two different techniques. And I thought, yeah, that's it. That's why threads are a little bit different than Kanban. It's not exactly a manufacturing paradigm. So what I can do though for you right now is go back to session-based and compare those two. So how is it different? Well, a session is a combination of threads. Okay, you have to start off with a charter, and you take notes, and you follow all kinds of things during that session. There's no instructions for how to accomplish that charter, you're letting yourself get productively interrupted, okay, in a session. Interrupted usually by your own thinking, all right? Now, if someone comes to the door and says, do you have a minute? We try to say, no. I'm in session. Don't bother me, right? That's the commitment that you made. Session is a commitment. It's a commitment to execute that charter as best you can under the time constraints that you're given. Now, it's not that you're given, half hour that's your session. You decide how long the session is. But sometimes they say, can you give me an hour toward investigating this bug? You go, sure. Let me do a session on it and I'll get back to you, right? So it's a commitment. It's as uninterrupted as possible, and it's meant to be finished, right? Whereas threads is not bound by time. Threads are not bound by time. They don't need to have a written report. They come and go several times a day, and it doesn't necessarily have to be finished, right? And I find that very intriguing. When I thought of this myself and talked about it with James, right? A thread doesn't necessarily have to be finished. How is that possible? An interruption that never gets resolved? So we'll talk more about that. So when you're in a session, the threads exist by considering primary and secondary threads. Like what pattern of activity, what activity has your attention most right now? Okay? The secondary threads say, on what thread can we make the most progress right now? So most important versus most progress. So two examples of threads in a session. Oh yeah, I'll show you. Let me just throw a session up here. Hopefully the link will work. Good, it does. Okay. All right. Boy, this is a long time ago. April 16th, 2001. This was a real session that I did. Did I do this one alone? No, I paired up with a guy named Tim Parkman. My charter was doing some exploratory testing toward developing a model of this product called Decide Right, which is a real product. We weren't paid to test it. We just needed a sample product, and we chose Decide Right, which was a product that says, we'll help you make decisions. And like who to hire, who to fire, what to have for lunch today, should I have another kid? Really, it was a real product that did this. So we took this product and we said, list the primary functions. That is a function so important that in the estimation of a normal user, if it didn't work, it would be a really, really bad thing. Okay, here we go. So there's our metrics I mentioned before. Me and Tim, it was a normal session, so it was plus or minus 90 minutes. 90 minutes plus or minus 15 minutes. We were mostly testing. We weren't interrupted by bugs, apparently. A little bit, 10% session setup. All right, well, let's get to the chase. Test notes. So Tim and I browsed the UI. We listed some functions. We listed the P's next to these guys. So that was a thread that we followed. Like, wow, we would consider those primary. Save, generating reports, deleting options, deleting criteria. The view menu, the decision table, we thought that was a primary function. Okay, option weightings, criteria weights, option ratings, different things like that. Okay, so this is in furtherance of our mission, right, to develop a model of the product. Okay, so with the manual, Tim and I are drilling down to the primary features, and we're coming up with new ideas. Create a decision with about 5 options and 5 criteria, but don't use the quick build. Okay, so that's a thread we may follow later. Stress testing, find the maximum limit of options or criteria for a decision table. Okay, on and on and on and on and on. Okay, so some threads. Here's another thread, a bug. A bug is an example of a thread. Why? Because a bug may never end. A bug may, think about it. I know, I was incredulous too. A bug is a thread, in my opinion, because we find something, and we file it, and it gets fixed, and then it isn't fixed so much. No, we do the regression pass, and it's not fixed. In fact, you created 2 new bugs. So you spawned 2 new threads. Okay, so we follow those. And you fixed one. That thread probably is over, probably not worth our time, but you never know. A month, that thread could come back again, right? So that's why I assert that threads may never end. You just follow it until you've exhausted either your energy or, I don't know. That's why I'm saying it's a crazy idea. It's a half-baked idea. I need to think about this more. Okay, another thing, an issue. I mentioned the difference between bugs and issues. A bug is something that you have a very defined oracle for. It says, yes, this is supposed to do this. You look at the software, it doesn't do that. Okay? Difference between desire and actual. Right? They're different. You can fix it by changing your desire. Don't want that. Or changing your actual. Okay? So an issue, though, says, I don't know what I've got here. So we said this issue will be an important reference, so I made a separate data file containing this. So it's a thread that we're going to park for now. Okay? So those are examples of threads in a session. Okay. Here's the other thing threads might look like. This is TweetDeck. Right? What can I say? I'm addicted to Twitter. It's a useful thing. I didn't think it was useful before. I thought, I don't care what you put on your bagels. But now it's like, it's a coffee shop for colleagues. And I log in and I keep it running, and once in a while I check in, and I go, that's cool, that's a cool link. I got to learn more about this. I got to learn more about space-filling curves, and or queuing theory. You know, tweets are these little gems, and they may never end. They may die for a while, they may come back. So I follow threads that are of interest to me, personally and professionally. So that's what threads look like. That's one example. It also looks like a CRM, a customer relations management tool, or a help desk ticketing system. Those may never end. When you call AT&T or Verizon or whomever, wouldn't you want them to have your history right there? You know, remember me, please. I know it's been a year since I had to call you, but I'm so pleased that you know that I've had this problem with your modem or whatever it is, right? Your ISP. So it looks like this. We have a business development tool called BCM, Business Contact Manager. This has the history of, I made up a company called ClearSoft Strategy. I scrubbed all the sexy details for you. So, but it looks like this. Like on this time and date, we provided SDAT testing support to this client for a period of time. We pursued this account. We networked and arranged a full-scale presentation. We discussed many things, and a record is on file with Scott. Good. So it's parked. Now it's done for now, but hopefully they'll call again, maybe tomorrow, next month. So it's a bit of a thread. A relationship is a thread. Our relationship with Adam and Lynette and Joe and Liz and David, and I know almost every one of you. And I consider those threads like a conversation too. Threads also look like your inbox. Email threads. We even call them email threads, don't we? They may never end. I found an email from 2 years ago. Somebody I'd forgotten about, and actually owed them something about session-based, some free coaching. And they said, oh, it's working great, and I really appreciate your help. And I'm like, did I ever help you? I had to look at my archive and say, oh yes, I did help them. So but that thread was now alive, and I remembered them, and it was, okay. So it was an interruption to my day, but it was a meaningful interruption, because it caused me to think about my service in this community. Well, like Joe said, we're QASIG, SASQUAG, CSPIN, PNSDC, SAO, we're a community. And I find myself in service to that. And I love, when I think of people like David and Adam and Lynette, I think of, oh, right, I need to give them that. And they were just knowing the relationship I have, it makes me think of things I need to do. Okay, what it really looks like. Here is my notebook from a conference. Do is a lot of little tries. I don't know where I got that, who said it, but I tweeted it. And I'm like, that is cool. You know, try, Yoda, there is no try, only do. And I'm like, Yoda, dude, there is try. Because, it takes the pressure off. Don't pressure me. I just want to try this. Because if I fail, I just want to feel good that I did some service to it. So someone said somewhere, probably PNSDC, I think this is my notes from there, do is a lot of little tries and I love it. Okay? So that was a thread I wanted to pursue. And look, it just came alive again. I just said something about that. Prioritization, ordering your reactions. Somebody said order your reactions. I'm like, wow, what does it mean to order your reactions to things? Prioritize the way you feel? So I want to Google that phrase and see what's there. There's a book from John Schultzky, and that I have to look up. Manufacturing equals TBTM. It became a slide you just saw. Because someone provoked, Kathy Argerly provoked that. So these are threads. In fact, if you've got a notebook and a pen right now, I will bet that those are threads. Because you will close your notebook and about 2 months later, you open it up again, and you'll flip to the page that you took this tonight, and you go, oh, right, that whole crazy half-baked thread thing, right? Our notes, our test notes, and our personal notes are really fascinating, at least to me, that these ideas come alive again. Okay, here's what it also really looks like. This is literally downstairs in my office, Post-it notes. Okay, now you saw this is my Kanban, backlog, work in progress, done. Okay, some things that I feel I can get done and will stay done, right? That's Kanban. Some things that may never get done, $99 training day idea. That's that Post-it note right there. It's been on my wall for about 4 months. Sasquag has a program called $99 Training Day. Yes, I just emailed Tracy Monteith and Keith Stovey. Keith is remarking there because he's part of Sasquag. He's the speaker chairman. I just did a talk at Microsoft about the top 10 tendencies that trap testers, and I didn't know, but Tracy Monteith introduced me. I'm like, dude, I didn't know you were part of this testing excellence track talk thing. I must have forgot. And he said, dude, you got to do this for Sasquag. This talk is a great talk. I'm like, cool. And you owe me a $99 training day idea. I'm like, oh, right. That's good. So I looked at my board, and sure enough, that came alive because, again, I'm in service to someone. And it was an interruption, right? A meaningful one. And now, but I can't take it down. I can't take it off my wall, even though I just emailed it because it's going to come back on me. It's not done yet. I got to figure out what the day is, what the time is. And even when I do it, he may want me to do another one. So it's like a memory provocative. So I'm kind of stuck with this curse of these threads, and maybe you can help me out with this. And I'll get to that. All right. So this is really what it looks like in my office. These Post-it notes. Well, what's another one? Lena, do I have one for you? No. QASIG live stream. That's funny. We're actually doing that. We've been talking about this for how many months? We're finally doing it. Okay. So that's it. That's threading. So what can you do with these threads? Now that you know that these interruptions in your day could be threads, you can focus on one or many. You can drop threads, create new ones. You can pick up the ones you dropped. You can comb threads. My brother and I are really getting punchy, I guess. We were having sushi after he got off the plane and down here at your village, and we're thinking, okay, threads. So we're going to use this analogy, James. So what are people going to be crazy with? So let's be crazy before they can be crazy. So, because they're going to say, what can you do with threads? Untangle threads, knotting threads, declare them a meaningful checkpoint, spawn child threads, right? So the analogy was pretty apt, I felt, with having a day full of change. Okay, so in the daily huddle, if you have one, you could say, where are we? These are the threads I pursued. And what should we work on today? Here's the threads I'm going to work on today. Okay, now you can do this with user stories, of course. You can do it with to-do list items, which is what we used to do here at CoreDev in our daily stand-up. And it was so monotonous and tedious. Our daily huddle was a to-do list. I'm like, TMI, don't need to know that. And then we got, we're right, we don't need to know everybody's to-do list. What do we need to do today to move the company forward? That's what we need to talk about. Cool. And we also tried a new idea last month. We tried a Kanban, not threads, but a real Kanban, right? Because we do two things. We have projects and we have people. And I went to Seattle Lean Coffee, which is every Wednesday at 8:30 with Jim Benson and Jeremy Lightsmith. Awesome guys, you should know them. It's free. Every Wednesday at Uptown Espresso, they talk about lean in software. Seattle Lean Coffee. Just Google it, you'll find the link. I learned about Kanban from those guys. So I came back to CoreDev and I said, guys, we should try this here. We should really eat our own dog food around us. So I made 2 boards in our huddle room, or what we call the leaf room, because all the wallpaper is leaves on the wall. So in the leaf room, we have what projects do we have in the queue, and what people do we have in the queue, and how can we matchmake, right? And the first rejection of that idea was, John, we already have this electronically. Why do we need to represent everything up here again? And my answer was, electronically is in the computer. We're standing here in front of each other. No laptop, no electronics. This room is analog. This is old school. Whiteboard, Post-it notes, ink, right? So then we can move stuff around.
Social.
And social, yeah, very good. It's a very social. We start our day every day at 9:30. That's our huddle. So in the daily huddle, I say, how am I going to move the company forward? Well, here's some threads that I'm pursuing. Now, they may never end, right? The whole live streaming thing. You know, it could be that now we need a better camera or whatever it is for the Ustream. Okay. All right. Now this word is called Swashopedia. This was kind of borrowed from a guy who had discovered this thing about procrastination, using Wikipedia to procrastinate deliberately. And I saw this, and I shared it with James, or I think he shared it with me, I forget which. But it's a way to waste time productively, according to this one guy, but I think it's more profound than that. Think of swashbuckling, the buccaneering kind of thing, right? But only with Wikipedia. All right, now, James has written this book, as you might know, Secrets of a Buccaneer Scholar, and I'm going to give away one tonight in our door prize. All right, it's how self-education and the pursuit of passion can lead to a lifetime of success. It's his book after he dropped out of high school, what he did to be a professional, and what he continues to do to learn on the job. So we have a lot of, he has a lot of pirate metaphors, buccaneer metaphors. So we invented this thing called the Swashpedia, as we call it, and it goes like this. Okay. So somebody says whatever thing that they're thinking of, like maybe it's alluvial fan. I know you're all thinking of alluvial fans, right? Now you are. Yeah, thanks. It's hard because I don't have my scroll bar, but it's there's a picture of what an alluvial fan is. I can't think of it. If I go way over, I'm going to just guess. That's right there. No. Oh well. Anyway, you'll see the picture of it in the slides. But here's how the game is played. Somebody thinks of something, anything in the Wikipedia, basically anything in the universe, any construct, any idea, any object, right? And they think of another thing. And the game goes, the object is to get from that Wikipedia article to the other Wikipedia article in as few links as possible, right? So it goes like this. So alluvial fan, let's say I'm thinking of kittens. Just popped in my head. So homage to Lynette. So I'm like, okay, kittens. How do I get from alluvial fan, which is a fan-shaped deposit formed where a fast-flowing stream flattens, slows, and spreads typically at the end, at the exit of a canyon onto a flatter plane. Okay, I got it. So it's kind of, all right.
Kittens?
How do I get to that in kittens? Habitat. Oh, animals. Look at that. Oh, I totally looked into this. It was not rehearsed, by the way. I see an animals link. This is going to be easier than I thought. I can only click the links. I can't go to the bottom and go categories and cheat like that. So animal, good. Now hopefully there's just some kittens. You know, maybe I can get it in 2 links. But as I'm finding kittens, I'm going, oh, what is porifera? Sponges. That's cool. And I'm looking at like duoturo stones. That's kind of neat. And chordata. Oh, right. I know. That's like 10th grade biology. And I'm looking at sea cucumbers. Oh, I got to pick up cucumbers for my wife. Right. And so you're going to allow these interruptions to happen to you. These threads. Now, you're trying to pursue as little threads as possible between Article 1 and Article 2. But if you've ever done anything with the internet to do research, you know this stuff's going to happen to you. You're going to get distracted by things that interest you because you're living and breathing and you have feelings.
So that's where you came up with surfing.
That's I was going from how do I get to session-based test management in Wikipedia to thread-based test, which does not exist yet. So hopefully I can go and can we just animal rights. That's got to be I can't do categories. These are called categories, and you can't do that. That's considered cheating, I guess. But any other link you can do. So how would I get that? Tapeworms? No, cats have tapeworms.
Go a little more. Mammals. Right there.
Where?
Mammals were into that line.
Mammals. Oh, thank you. All right, good. All right, cats. There's gonna be cats in here.
Cats.
Dogs,
Up
cats.
to the left. Yeah.
Wow, you guys are good.
Down,
I couldn't have planned that any better. James, I challenge you. Well, now you know the answer, so James, I won't challenge you. Look at that. We went from alluvial, whatever that was. I'm 1 link away. Yes, I'm 1 link away. I was in cats, but kitten. See, it's even because the reason I thought of kittens is because I challenged James to go from space-filling curves to kittens. And I did it in 9 links, he did it in 10 or something like that. So I've been here before. but I didn't know if there was ever going to be a link. So, got it. All right, so this reminds me of another game that James and I created long ago called Brute Cause Analysis. Not root cause, but brute cause analysis. You're forcing two things that shouldn't ever happen. Like, you think of any feature like file print, and you think of any error, like, runtime error overflow 6. And then it goes opposite. So James think of runtime, I think of file print, and it goes back to him. He goes, okay, so you're going file print of a PDF, and it gives you that overflow. And I said, okay, it goes back to me. It gives you that overflow, James, because the PDF was by Adobe Illustrator 4, and you're okay, so he goes back to him. Well, you're in Adobe Illustrator 4 on IE whatever, because there's a DLL that is incompatible. Then he throws it back to me. And we kind of brute cause these plausible, perhaps, ways of thinking about testing, right? Okay, so we just followed a bunch of threads. We let ourselves get productively interrupted, and I know what you're thinking. There are studies that say the more you get interrupted, the more multitasking, the less productive you are. Well, I think it depends on the context. Now, in sessions, I try not to be interrupted, as I said. But what if I wasn't in session? I find that I'm more productive when I let myself surf and get interrupted, but I still need to be accountable to that interruption. If I'm on Twitter all day following friends, it's easier for me because I'm manager for corporate intellect, and I get to decide what that means at this company. But it damn well better apply to a project or a methodology or a conference or something like that. And it usually does, because the people that I follow, like Lynette and Curtis and Adam, tend to fuel me in that domain. Okay, so it's germane to my work. Okay, I did this at Rose City Spin, the same talk. I did not have the slides you're about to see. And in fact, if you're following on Ustream with the slides, these are new slides, and I apologize. I always change slides literally at the last minute. I thought of some great things to add. This is what I think is adding value, I hope, to this deck. So I did this, and I ended my talk. That's it. That's thread-based test management. Thank you for coming. And then I ended like 15 minutes early. And then I said, okay, well, I took out my notebook, like I will do for you guys too, but not yet. I took out my notebook and I said, okay, let me have it. Where did I go wrong? And Doug Hoffman in the front row said, it seems to me that you're just trying to find the names for different hairs on your head. We all do this. Do we have to cut? That's where I got that scrutiny. It's like, well, Doug, yes. Before it was called exploratory testing, what did we call it? Ad hoc testing, playing around, okay. But ad hoc means for a particular purpose, and then you disappear, like an ad hoc committee to study potholes out here on Blakely. Okay, well, you did that. You're done. Bye. Committee disbanded. But exploratory testing is not necessarily ad hoc. You don't just form for a particular purpose and disband. I mean, all testing is ad hoc, really, when you think about it. So I like exploratory. But there are words for things that we come up with. Alternation and branching and backtracking and conjecturing and all these things. And we'll say, yeah, those $10 words for just playing around. But I want those words because it gives me credibility to people who I need it from. So they won't dismiss me and ship my job to India, right? And say, any idiot could do this. Whereas if I use language that scientists actually use, because we're all scientists if we're doing testing, then it'll help me in my work. So anyway, that was my counter to Doug. And I said, I understand. I felt the same way at first. Like, isn't this called something? Thread? Do we have to call it threads, James? Well, we thought about it, and I thought about it. What would you call it? Does anyone have a name for just being interrupted and naming the interruptions?
Stream of consciousness.
ADD-based testing.
ADD-based testing. Stream of consciousness. So at the end of the day, I
had to
said,
get paid for that.
Multitasking.
I usually get fired for it.
Multitasking. I don't know. I mean, it's an honest question. I mean, it's not a rhetorical question. Because I don't purport to be an expert. Oh, I am an expert on this because I co-invented the thing with James. But even then, we gave away session-based. We didn't say TM. We didn't say trademark circle. We said, no, use it. Make it your own. This is our context. It works. What about yours? And we're pleased to learn that session-based for the medical device industry has a two interesting contexts. People who love it. Finally, we can bring our testing out of the shadows and make it accountable and scrutinizable. And the medical device companies that say, hell no, we're not going to document the exploratory testing we did because we can get audited. And they say, you have no test case traceability for this? Sorry, we're not going to have legal culpability that we tested and knew about a failure. They'd rather not do it at all. So interesting thing. same domain, medical, two different approaches toward using session-based or not. So I'm hoping that gets revealed tonight. Okay, reaction number 2. Someone said, you have to know whether the interruption is disruptive or opportunistic. And I love that. I said, I didn't think of that. Because there are some interruptions that are disruptive.
Squirrel.
Squirrel! Yeah, that's right, from up, right? The dog. Someone said the same thing in Rose City. And I was like, what is that? What's the squirrel? Oh, that's right. Thank you for what?
It's repeatable.
It's repeatable. It's definitely memorable. So my comment is there. Yes, I agree. Someone said, "Do you know about braided flow?" Now, then I was looking up braided flow to find a picture today, and Rick Brenner from Chaco Canyon Consulting brought this up. He lives in the desert, and he said, "Well, when water floods on a flat plain, it just kind of self-braids where the gravity seems to want to pull it more." And I said, "No, I didn't know that." So I'm looking up braided flow to find a picture, and I find alluvial fan. There's no braided flow Wikipedia article. Imagine that. So alluvial fan. So I learned about that. I said, no, I didn't know about braided flow because he thought threads were like reminded him of braided flow. So maybe it's braided flow testing. I don't know. Are testers paid to close threads or follow them? Wow. Interesting. I didn't know. And then in the audience, right, there was this notion of done versus done, and then done, and it got kind of crazy. But so to me, when something's done, right, it means that I think it's further testing, further progress is more harmful than helpful, right? It's not economical to continue. It's 5 o'clock. It's my anniversary. I'm going home. Further testing is harmful to my person. On the other hand, we ship tomorrow, and if we ship, we get a $50,000 bonus. So, honey, I'll make it up to you. You know, that kind of thing. Further testing is not more harmful than helpful. In other words, it's not good enough, right? So there's that notion, good enough is not good enough. Well, you're missing the point. Good means quality, enough means stop, right? So when you reach sufficient quality, and stop. You can actually have too much quality, right? And that's just as bad as not enough. So this notion of done means that I think it's done and my PO, my product owner thinks it's done, right? But even then, there's an owner above him or her, perhaps, the customer. Of course, you're supposed to have an on-site customer and Agile and all this stuff. So are testers paid to close threads or follow? I don't know. Again, maybe you can help me with the notion of, is a thread ever closed? Maybe so, I don't know. Somebody said maybe finding and following a pattern is more like quilting. Now, I meant threads. She said pattern. And she's a quilter. But that's how it hit her. And I'm like, maybe there's an analogy here to sewing different disparate things together to make a homogeneous purpose. I don't know. I kind of like that. I don't know what to do with that yet. And then a guy came up to me afterwards and said, have you heard of Grog's animated knots for the iPhone? And apparently yes, there's an app for that. There's a cool app with for $4.99. You can pay to watch these little videos of how to tie these knots for you sailors in the audience. I think Marshall, you might know about this. Adam, Michael. I didn't know about it, but now I do. So that's an interesting thread I will pursue. Not that I'm a sailor, but who would have thought? I mean, in the days of the iPhone, it's like, you're silly if you ask who would have thought, because there's an app for everything. But here it is. There's a snapshot of it. You can click this. What's an arbor knot? What's a blood knot? Tie it. It's a little video. That's cool. I said, no, I did not know Grog's animated knots. Thank you for telling me. Someone in the back said, you know what? Men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti. And I tweeted this, and somebody was saying that I said it. And I'm like, no, I was saying what they said. Because I don't want to be, last thing I need is some gender discrimination. I'm already in trouble for saying things on Twitter about my feelings about equal opportunity and that kind of thing. Because I want us to be equals. And apparently some people think that we have to do a lot more work to be equals. So someone said, men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti, and I didn't understand the reference until I looked it up. And there's a book about how men and women are different. And apparently guys are more compartmentalized in how we think, and women are more flow and tangled and disjointed. I don't know. But that was apparently it's not only a book, but it's a video and a different thing. So that's how it hit them, this thread stuff. Okay, so now it's your turn. That's it. That's my crazy idea for responding to change. It's under construction, and now, if there's any or anybody in the chat that's active, Carl? No? Okay. We sent out the link to a very, very small beta, I guess you could say. So we may not get anybody. But that's it. I don't know about thread-based test management, the full-blown management of it. Right now, it's Post-it notes on my wall. It's my notes here. It's email conversations that are threads. It's Twitter. It's notes from my sessions. Threads. Conversations.
Life.
You had life, right? Life brings you in and out. Mike Mead used to work for us. Now he works for Google. And he's on that thread. He came to us when he just graduated from ITT Tech, I believe it was. DeVry, sorry. We had interns for both. So from DeVry, and just fantastic career. I just see your career is just awesome. So that thread, you follow, you're still in testing, hung in there, but you're an SDEP. I just think that if I let myself know what interruptions to pursue, I could actually be more productive than if I were focused on something that maybe was the wrong thing. Now, here's another thing I'll close with this. Have you ever jumped right onto a task, right? Thinking, yeah, not gonna procrastinate, I love it, I'm engaged, I'm interested. And you do it, there's a lot of hard work, it's an 8-hour day maybe. And you're like, yeah. The next day they come and say, oh, you did that already? No, we changed our mind. And we're going in a different direction. Really? If you had just procrastinated, really, I would have saved all that work if I'd have just. So James taught me this when I was at Microsoft. He said, when your manager asks you to do something, you can pretty well ignore it until they ask you again. That's an interesting approach. That is if you don't want to do it. Now, I was engaged in this particular time. But I saw his point. There's some half-baked ideas out there that managers have. Some are worth pursuing, some aren't. But I felt like some threads, you got to decide what's important. And I think we do this naturally and innately, but maybe it's a trap. And so anyway, your thoughts about that. How does this hit you? What's your reaction? What have I got here? So I'll go here first.
I guess I'm curious how you keep this productive instead of just interesting and fun and not really arriving at any sort of a destination. If you're managing this, I think you want to accomplish a goal and be productive versus, okay, I've got a million ideas, I'll kind of categorize them. I guess the waffle idea, that's, I guess, categorizing them. If I want to actually accomplish something, how do you herd all these cats?
Well, the Post-it note wall that I have, like the $99 training day. Okay, I feel I accomplished that. It's now on Tracy's court, right? I gave him an idea. Now, I love this question because when I did the Kanban about projects in our at Quartet, we found that there wasn't a linear flow. Like, okay, we talk to the client, right? We find the scope, and then we negotiate, and then we find the person, and then we go. Simple. Flow, Kanban, done. Manufacturing, assembly line. Okay, we found that. Okay, we talk to them, we scope it out, and we're like, oh yeah, we're going to sign a contract. No, the scope changes. The Post-it note goes right back to scope. Okay, so then we scope it out. We got the contract, right? Yeah, okay. Well, now it's in their court. They got to sign it. And oh no, they push back on the terms. So now it's back in our court. We have to decide if we want those terms. So we made it stopped being linear. There's 2 columns now, 2 rows, in our court, in their court. So a project comes in, if it's NDA, MSA, SLA, whatever it is, legal stuff, if it's back and forth, before it goes on. So it's interesting, it becomes more, I don't know, it's a thread, sort of. So that's the thing, that's how I would treat that. How do you manage it? So, yes.
2 things. First is, how does this idea contribute to legitimizing what really happens in testing? My concern is, yes, this happens, but I like the idea of being open and candid about what really happens in testing.
Yeah.
But I think it's so far from what people idealize and think they want that it could do more damage than good.
All right, so Lynette's question was, how does this go toward legitimizing testing? If you're on Ustream and it's hard to hear, I'll try to repeat the questions. I think just using the word thread, just that, is saying, is again and again and again, saying, these are the threads I'm on today. Now, here's the test cases, here's the user stories, here's these are the threads I'm pursuing today. Because remember, they could be bugs, they could be issues, they could be emails, topics, and you do service to a thread. And I think the more we use that and call it that, the better it'll be ingrained as a theory.
So you're saying that all things are threads, or there are threads and there are tasks? And
No, there are threads. I'm saying there are threads and there are tasks, actually, yes.
Okay.
If you, okay,
And
I'm going to guess
it's
that.
an expectation thing. The task, you can expect that I will finish it within a certain
Yeah,
amount of time.
I think so.
And the thread is, we don't quite know, it's an inquiry.
Yeah, it's an inquiry. Let me take a quick poll. How many have tried to do a to-do list? Show of hands. Everybody in the room for you and your, okay. If maybe you found that some of the things on your to-do list are tasks, they can be finished. And some of the things on your to-do list never get finished. They never do. And they persist. And you look at your old to-do list and go, yeah, that kind of still applies. It's like a recurring heartbeat of something. Like, find a QASIG speaker. It's always going to be on my to-do list. Because as soon as I do one, I've got to jump right into the next one. Right? But I need some kind of peg, some kind of ping to remind me to do that. Now, I could put a task on my Outlook thing, and I guess it'll be done or perpetually done. But there are some things that are kind of gray, aren't there? I mean, I find that true. That like an issue that I pursue, even like I said, a bug. When you think a bug is done. So I guess when you look at your last to-do list or your current to-do list, maybe stuff will emerge like this one has a finite end. It's never going to come back. You know, I got the new pair of shoes and they're going to last for 5 years and it's done. You know, you tweet a lot about clothing and I go, good. It's okay. Lynette's got a new thing and it's done. Okay, but it's a recurring theme and it's kind of fun to watch your decisions. Right? So. But kidding aside, when I follow your tweets on Twitter, they're humane. They're about the humanity in software testing, and that's a thread that'll never die. But it's really interesting to follow that kind of pattern because you provoke blog ideas. Right? So in your stand-up, you may decide this one's a task and this will be done, but this one is a thread and we should talk about it because it may not end. And there may be these things that make me think it won't end. Yes, you go ahead.
Actually, it's a three-stage thing. Since you mentioned it, I'm trying to think my life in terms of threads.
Okay.
So even without interruptions, our life has lots of threads. In a sense, it's multi-threaded application. So we try to keep managing it, right?
Yes.
So in that regard, management, I think, is the key thing here. Like not necessarily identifying the threads, but how can we manage it?
Yes.
And that question. And the third thing is, we can get lots of from the theory. If you think about like the applications,
Yeah.
we have like multi-threaded, mutual exclusions, starvations, deadlocks,
Yeah.
and then
Good.
timeshare, synchronization,
that.
shared resources. I mean, I see lots of
Excellent.
opportunities that can apply to this.
So-
I have to add on that, I'm sorry, I didn't finish my
Oh, sorry.
thing. I just wanted to say, I agree with him, and I think that you're missing time, because my last blog, had a bunch of threads, and the thing you don't mention is that threads expire, and they come into being, they start at a certain time. Some of them overlap and some are disparate, and you can't begin on them, you may have dependency, and they may lose priority, so it may not be that you drop them, but they fade out of relevance. And I think that ties into what he's saying. I try to put mine into a schedule to manage them because I can't manage more than a certain number of threads without losing track of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's talking about, is trying to manage them in an effective way.
So I'm going to stretch it a little bit, but there are even like formal languages where you can define, in a sense, like prescribe how threads interact with each other so that they represent like a piece of coherent behavior.
All right.
So you can even use those notations to define your data.
That's a good point. I'm going to take you next, Steve, but I have one comment. At the conference for the Association for Software Testing, which is in Seattle next year, it's in August 8th through the 10th in Linwood, and I'll give you more details later. Just watch the website. But it's a facilitated conference, and that is every speaker has a facilitator at the front of the room like this. So it's Sam speaking, and I'll pick on you, Paul. Paul's my facilitator. If you have questions, you hold up a placard, and he writes down your numbered placard, right? And that's a thread. Okay, so Paul may ask on this thread, what about multi-threading and the hardware paradigm? Ah, good. And someone will raise a green card, which means I want in on that thread. I have a question on that thread. That trumps a blue card, which is a new thread. We're going to exhaust the thread before we move to the new thread, right? So a speaker may get bumped. If there's a lot of energy in the room, the next speaker, too bad. That's how CAST is organized, right? It's meant to be a pure conference. Oh, and Keith has got his K cards over there. They're called K cards after Paul Holland's wife who made it. So a red card is a stack interrupt. It's like, I have something more important than all y'all. So screw you. But you can only use it once. Right? So it's either an excitement, and I provoked it, because at Whopper, the workshop on performance and reliability, I was excited, I went to the board, I drew a thing, I did an impromptu lightning talk, and then kicked me out of the conference, basically. No, they were very polite about it, but they said, next year, we will have cards, and we'll organize it, and sure enough, Paul Holland, the facilitator, went home, and he talked about this to his wife, and his wife said, why don't you just have colored cards and keep track of threads? Awesome! So, threading is inherent in conversations and really true peer conferences. So you can organize and get the most out of that data. And I felt compelled to mention that because it's what CAST has done since 2006, and I totally forgot about it, that we do thread, we even call them threads. So yeah, Steve.
I wanted to make a point about what you said about, for instance, getting a speaker for QASIG. That's a recurring task.
It's
which
a
is
recurring
part of
task,
thread.
yeah.
Because if you were to find 5 speakers for QASIG tonight, by the time you got to use them all, 3 of them would be busy, 1 of them moved out of town.
That's true.
So finding
That's
5 now
expiration. That's
is,
right.
exactly.
That's right.
So that's a little different.
So I need to say, let's see, so that's not a drop thread, that's just, because I don't have one that's expired. That's an important one.
It's
Wow.
a thread spawning new threads.
Threads spawning new threads.
We're thread
Spawn
tasks.
Rotting thread? Rotting thread?
Rotting thread? What's a rotting thread?
You leave it.
Oh, threads rot.
Does something else grow?
Michael, you had something? Comments?
I heard erotic threads spawning new threads. And
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but actually getting things done talks about areas of responsibility as different from tasks.
Okay. Areas of responsibility. I know a little bit about what they call the GTD, right? Getting things done.
Right, maybe mixing that up with my Apple app called
All right.
Things.
All right.
No, those are definitely related.
Okay. All right. Other thing, the management's great. When we did test cases at LexisNexis, we used TFS to do burn downs and that kind of thing, but we can use Excel, I guess, but how I manage it is just to post it. And maybe, I'm open to new methods to manage these threads. Yes.
Did you just mentioned Post-its. What I wasn't clear on was whether you discovered this thread concept by looking at the Post-its that you were using, or whether you used it to change your behavior in some way.
I used it to keep track of things that were kind of, I didn't have any other word for it. They weren't to-do list items, and they weren't activities per se. They were patterns of activities that led me down a particular path. So James gets off the plane, says sessions didn't work. I work more in threads. He talked about it. He showed you his list, which wasn't a to-do list, and it wasn't charters. And he said these are what I would call threads. These are patterns of activities to solve a particular problem. So that's where it was born. And then when I said, oh yes, I have a wall full of Post-it notes that really aren't Kanban, but I have my Kanban, and that's really finite. I used to call it my backlog, and it was just always a perpetual backlog. New stuff would come and new stuff would kind of go. I guess things did expire because I would take Post-it notes off and like find a facility for CAST. That was kind of a to-do list item, but it's been like there for 3 months, and but now it's gone. So
You said they were not documented. Did you?
other than Post-it notes, I tried it with Excel too, and it didn't work for me. I needed to see it like on my wall. I needed to be more tactile, I guess, than that. So.
Could we go back to the definition, or you just said it, but there seems to be a finiteness implied in the definition as it's written compared to what I'm hearing as the threads really never finished.
Yeah.
Potentially never finished.
Yeah, they're potentially never finished. Let me see where that is. Right. Yeah.
That. Solving a problem is, if you solve the problem, you solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
Or achieving an objective is, you're finished, right?
So what if you solve the problem for now?
For now.
That's the thing. I think you're right. The thread might end, but how do you know for sure? What, maybe context will change? I'm not sure. Another thing I struggled with even with Kanban, when it gets to the done column, I would like throw it away, right? Why do we even have a done column? Just you move it from work in progress to the trash. But I realized I was rescuing things out of the trash because it wasn't done. It wasn't like my manager would say, well, there's more on that. Or I'd get an email like, oh, not so fast. So I thought I would achieve the objective, but it's more like a recurring thing. So honestly, I don't know what I've got here.
Cleaning house solves a problem, but it's never really done.
You mean emptying the trash?
Well, cleaning, no, but I mean, cleaning house is an example of you're solving a problem.
Yeah.
Or you're at least averting one.
Well, here's the thread. My
but
wife
you're never
lost her.
really done.
Yeah, they were speaking of cleaning house. My wife lost her keys about 4 months ago, and then we sold our truck, and it had. I gave the owner my key, but I said, well, we have an extra key here somewhere, and someday we'll find it. And we tried in earnest for a whole day to find those damn keys, and we didn't find it. For months, we emailed her still saying, oh, we're still looking for it. She goes, that's okay. You know, if you find it, you find it. If not, I found them about last week. They were underneath my driver's seat in my car. My wife's keys were underneath my own driver's seat a whole time. So now that thread is done. But for a while, it was just, I was obsessed. Where are these freaking keys? And my wife just was perplexed. So, but it was a pattern of activity. Yes, Jeff?
So is there any brainwave that is not a thread? I mean, you're talking essentially about command of the entire universe of information and knowledge. And they have different life cycles and relationships and I mean, what doesn't fit?
What doesn't fit? If it's like let's see.
Because almost every idea or concept I can probably find ways to connect, to develop, one piece of information grows meta information very quickly.
Well, here's an example. Let me return you to this. This was my to-do list, which is a rare thing that didn't have many threads on it. I don't think it has any. The slide set for David's class, you got it. You know, grade the homework, done. Prepare slides, done. Lunch with Scott, done. Done. So, but usually there's stuff in there like, oh yeah, see if
right, and this is a particular pattern, but you had multiple patterns as you went through this.
But isn't CSS 490 a thread? Isn't PNSQC a thread?
Preparing slides. What if the person you're preparing for, they don't?
Aren't those
yes,
part
I guess
of
they're threads. They could be threads until they die. I guess if they just like going from the annuvial fan to kittens. I guess I follow those threads until it's done.
It's like beads on a string.
Yeah. Okay, David, comment.
So I think we're talking about tasks, which are these short time frame things that are sort of knowable time frame. We have threads, which are undetermined time frame.
Yeah, undetermined time frames.
And then there's interruptions. And it seems like those three different things. And the interruptions can spawn tasks, or they can spawn threads, but they're brief things that then go into the other categories.
Okay. All right, good. That's a really interesting thought. So interruptions can spawn threads or spawn tasks.
Or more interruptions.
Or more interruptions. Okay. I love that.
They can kill some threads.
Yeah, they can kill some. Okay, I want to take it's 8:15. Let me take one more and then dismiss you. You can stay if you want. I'll stay up here, but I'll take one more and then I'll close to give some people time to get home. Yes, Liz, you have the last word here.
With session-based test management, you have the sessions, and then you have this superstructure of reviewing them with someone else. And do threads need a superstructure of any sort, any kind of review management? Or
I think some do. Like in my stand-up, I may say I'm on this thread, and someone will have an idea. They'll spawn a new thread, or they'll help me with my existing thread. They'll say, "Oh, you got to talk to Jenny. That'll help you." They'll give you some progress toward that. I'm like, "Oh, right, I didn't think of that." So that's the stand-up is one of the main paradigms I have for that kind of scrutiny.
right, but it just seems like they wander all over your entire life, and there's no. I mean, I recognize it's a feature, but as someone who knits, my yarn can wander all over each other, and get really, really tangled in the closet if I don't like keep it very tidy. So I just see these threads being more chaos than help for a house.
Sure. Okay. So even though I put them on Post-it notes, they're little containers, right? Would that help? I mean, I don't know.
have a pile of Post-it notes.
So
they
do I.
get kicked off the desk by the cat. They get tea spilled on them. They get.
Right. Sure. All right.
I don't know.
Neither do I. Excel, Post-it notes. How do you keep track of this interruptions that may lead to more interruptions or tasks or new threads? Talk amongst yourselves.
You need 6 screens.
6 screens and radius displays. Listen, I really would like to hear from as many people who have energy around this tonight. And if you need to go, email me, please. But listen, thanks everybody, and you on Ustream, thanks for being here. I'll stay up here if you want more questions.
Can I say something first?
Yes.
So, as John mentioned, I'm teaching a course in software testing this quarter at University of Washington, Bothell. It's the black box exploratory stuff. Harry Robinson's been in there talking. John's been in there talking. I'm looking for more people who would be interested in talking or doing a session there, experiential session this quarter. If you're interested, come find me and we can see if what you're interested in doing makes sense in what I'm trying to do. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good class. Thank you, David. All right, door prize is engine. Engine? Yes. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Very good. And talk among each other. There's more pizza, I think, and soda. And I'll be the last one out. I'll lock the doors.